let's see what my wonderful panellist Henry Bolton makes of this. Henry, I personally am quite shocked that they are letting this march go ahead in Birmingham tomorrow.
I think we're seeing I'm going to call it a socialist agenda of breaking down our customs, our traditions and our institutions. And Birmingham City Council is a Labour-run council. They have, a lot of them, been elected on the back of support for the Palestinian cause in Gaza. Which, as Philip quite rightly, I think, said, a lot of people are commenting on the war in Gaza and in Ukraine, in fact, who have no clue whatsoever as to the history of it. They've been whipped up, by people who, have got their own political agenda. And I think that Birmingham City Council have been sort of pulled into all of this. They're part of that picture. And so I'm not surprised. Do I think it's an outrage? Yes, I do. Do I think it undermines, not undermines, but it is taking a contrary position to the values and the principles of Remembrance Day? But again, our schools have utterly failed to teach our youngsters in the United Kingdom about the real history of World War I and indeed of World War II and subsequent wars. I know a 12-year-old very well who's done World War I. They didn't cover the causes of World War I. They didn't cover the major campaigns of World War I. They didn't cover the negotiations after World War I. They didn't cover anything. What they did cover was the horrendous cost in terms of casualties, which are tragic and appalling. We remember those on Remembrance Day, rightly so. But we need to understand the context. And I think half the people who organise these protests have no clue as to the context.
Okay, right, OK. Halima, thank you very much for joining us. Bringing in our other panellist now, former Labour official Halima Khan. Halima, we are talking about the Armistice Day plot to swarm UK cities that's been exposed by the Daily Express today, in particular in Birmingham, where a pro-Palestine march is timed to go up against the Remembrance Day march. As Henry's just alluded to, Birmingham is a Labour-run council. Do you think this march should be going ahead?
Well, I mean, I'm not there at the march. I probably won't be attending tomorrow either. I think that, I'm not understanding what the scale of the issue and the rage is, if I'm being honest. I don't think that there's much of a contradiction in remembering fallen soldiers. I know, the gentleman, lovely gentleman, Henry, was speaking quite, passionate about how he feels about it. I mean, one of your colleagues just came up to me. I'm obviously very pro-Palestine. If it's not obvious, well, now it is. But one of your colleagues just came up to me and said, Halima, do you mind if we put a poppy on you? And I was like, whatever, it is what it is. And the honourable gentleman across me isn't wearing one. I think that... I don't have my glasses, but it's not as bold as my one, is it?
It's not. It's actually made out of the brass of a shell fired in the First World War.
OK.
Anyway,
yeah, no, so like...
I would always... I mean, I'm a veteran myself.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. And I think that people aren't having I don't think anybody sensible is having sensible conversations on either side. Now, the crux of the issue is, my great-grandfather... I'm British because my great-grandfather was brought here to fight, as in, be a part of the British Navy. And then on the other side, my grandfather was a leader in the liberation of Bangladesh. So for me, I don't see there being much conflict on, people fighting or protesting about another world conflict that people are dying in. And I think that one of the things that we really should be angry about, a lot of people are trying to paint the protests as pro-Hamas or Islamist or anti-Semitic or whatever. The government under Rishi Sunak allocated £54 million to anti-Semitism education. Rachel Reeves and the Starmer government allocated £7 million. £3.5 million was allocated to homeless veterans. That should be more outrageous than the fact that, there is even a protest going on. What about the veterans that are homeless? Do they not, we've got billions being paid to Ukraine every year. What about the veterans? Are we supposed to fight for a country that doesn't fight for us or represent us? I don't think so. The Tory party are very much pro-conscription, but when people are struggling to get on a bus fare, where it's now £3 for a bus fare, a lot of people who are the poorer classes will be conscripted, and they can't even afford bus fares to, the army bases. So I think we're getting enraged and overly emotional on the wrong issues when, the bigger issues at hand is, how are we going to convince people to fight for this country? How are we going to convince people to remember something that we're actively not even understanding that, why are we fighting now? Why should we fight now? So
I think those are all very good points, and I think I probably agree with them all. The thing about Remembrance Day, or the Remembrance Sunday, is it's actually, although very much it was the empire that fought and the colonies, if you like, that provided troops to the Navy, the Army and the Air Force in the various wars. And subsequently it's been the British thing. It is a day where we can respect the British veterans, and it is and Commonwealth, and it is a day that is really, the royal family's there. It's about the sacrifices that were made not around the world in other conflicts, but in the conflicts that involved Britain, the colonies, the empire, various stages in history, of course, to protect the values that we stand for, and actually that we have in common. And what I worry about with these protests on the same day is that, as Philip indicated, they're trying to jump on the Remembrance Day for the publicity. They get the headline in the newspapers, as you've referred to. That raises the profile, but they've had an awful lot of profile, and the world is not just about the Palestinian cause. I think we need to have more of a discussion about wars generally, because I think the British people are living in a peaceful bubble, which is great, but remain often in ignorance as to the suffering that wars do deliver around the world in other places that don't even involve us. And I think we should talk about that. But Remembrance Sunday is intrinsically a day for the British and Commonwealth nations to remember their war dead.
Okay. Yeah,
sorry, just to add to that, Dawn, 3 British veterans were killed in Gaza. We remember them too. If we're protesting for Palestine, we remember the fact that this country did nothing about the 3 British veterans. Israel will never investigate itself, and we shouldn't rely on it to investigate itself for those crimes. But what have we done to investigate what happened to those 3 British veterans? And those 3 British veterans that died in Gaza should be celebrated on Remembrance Day as well. But they're not going to be. They're not even going to be spoken about.
I would also you probably want to move on, Dawn. But
I was going to say that there is also a British hostage being held at the moment in those tunnels as well. And we don't hear people talking about her very much on the pro-Palestinian marches.
I was a British civilian that was in Palestine on October the 7th, and I stayed in Jerusalem for 2 months after. I was also somebody that was at risk if I was to be killed or assassinated by Israel for whatever reason. They thought I'm Palestinian or whatever. I don't think this country would try and, support my family or actually even highlight the fact that, a British citizen was killed by Israel. Many have been. So we talk about Tom Handel.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think we let ourselves down in that respect. And I think we do not stand up for our own people nearly enough in such circumstances. There was a few years ago, there was an ITN cameraman killed. I was asked for advice on the investigation relating to that death. He was targeted by an Israeli tank. He was very clearly a press cameraman. The Israelis knew that the team was there. He was killed by an Israeli tank. Now, there are, of course, we should be condemning whoever commits these sort of gratuitous acts of violence. I have no question about that. But the question about tomorrow and Remembrance Sunday, I think it would just be decent of the pro-Palestinian marchers to keep away from this. I've marched past the cenotaph, and I, it's a special occasion, and these guys aren't going to want, we're watching it just now, they're not going to want that disrupted, and nor should they have it disrupted. It's a peaceful march that's been going on for the best part of 100 years.
Halima, many people are saying that point. You have every single day to keep avoiding the wider aspects of what the situation is. You've had every single day to protest. Why do it tomorrow? Just let the veterans at the Remembrance Day Sunday tomorrow have their day.
So, I mean, it's not up to me to, make that question.
No, of course
because...
not, no, but I'm asking why not let them just have this day?
Well,
surely it would be more respectful for the marchers not to have that.
So that question
tomorrow.
needs to be put to the organisers, and often the organisers, the Stop the War Coalition, are actually a middle-class white-led organisation.
Yeah,
there's not Palestinians that organise the marches or Muslims, it's not...
It doesn't actually matter who's organising it.
But I think those questions should be put to the people not who are pro-Palestine, but the people who are organising.
Dawn, I think it does matter, because all of these pro-Palestinian marches that I've seen in London, what do all the banners say? They say a Socialist Workers' Party.
They do have a lot of those.
Where's the funding coming from? Where's the organisation coming from? There is another agenda. It's not just the pro-Palestinian cause. We've got, I'm going to say it, far left troublemakers who want to disrupt things. And if they've got a cause, it would be far better to have a reasonable conversation and come on shows like this and discuss it.
Indeed it would. Unfortunately, we're going to finish that one there. We have run out of time. For all the best analysis and opinion on that story, please do go to our website, gbnews.com. I'm Dawn Neesom. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show.